Hey ya, it's Baby-ya, and I'm here to play some Minecraft with you. Welcome back to our Twin Bell town. We have finally completed up the shopping area of our little port village here. Yeah, we finally have shops sort of representing all of the major things you'd expect to see. They have all been fully detailed on the insides, and more landscaping has gone into place. And boy, what a difference that has made. Last time, this area was looking so very sandstone heavy. Everything was just, little peaks of orange with the red sandstone. But, yeah, it definitely was missing the contrast. And boy, does the greenery really help to break that up. I've also added in some banners and a couple custom banners, though I'm no good at doing those. It's kind of my first time just sort of playing around with it. And I also added another shop, which is a flower shop to town. I ended last episode saying that I needed to bring in some of those colors over this way. And instead of doing it organically, I just chose to do another building that actually has colors from kind of a little bit of everywhere. Yeah. I think that's been a useful addition to town for sure. And I've also worked on doing a little terraforming project, just to build up the landscaping behind the gold mine. It really helps to just sort of block off the nothingness that continues on and on and on and on that way. May continue to do a little bit more just along the river, but probably not too much, because as I've stated before, everything is designed around what's the view from the center of town. So what that really leaves left for us is to do some work out there in the residential areas and across the river. Not to mention, the mayor's house, but that comes last. That will be the final project we work on in this village before we call this whole area complete, which is exciting and sad at the same time. But we are not there yet. We have a bit more to do before we can call this place finished. So before we jump into what's next, let's go ahead and take a look at the buildings we completed in between since the last time we were together. Look at some of those details, and then let's start moving on to building up some residential homes to get some more villagers into town. Alright, let's do it. First, let's start with the flower shop, the newest building in town, with its main purpose to bring some color and a little more detail and life to the area. It's not a big space. Oh, well, hello there, Flower Lady Gerelda. Now, actually, we already knew who this villager was. She is nobody new. She's none other than Minorette Gerelda from over here. In fact, as I was building this place, as soon as I had the bed in, she was in here every single night. So I think she just came to the realization that gold mining was not her calling, but rather the flower life is what she was destined for. So we had her switch professions over here. Yeah, she's donning a beautiful new hat, swapped out her name tag, and here she resides. And she's doing a great job. I think she is much more satisfied over this way, which means poor Minor Gerald, he's gonna need a new Minorette Geraldina? I don't know. We'll have to see, but he's definitely gonna need somebody else to keep him company over there. Wherever he is, he likes to hide up on the... Oh, there he is. He heard us talking. He likes to hide up on the ceiling in their living quarters over there. I don't know what it is, but he really likes climbing up the ladder back there and just standing up there. Anyway, yeah, so I'm really happy with how this little shop area came out. Now, the inside is super simple and basic. One room with these trapdoors to actually block off the bed area. Nothing spectacular. Not much room to do much spectacular with. But I think I like it. I think I like the organic feel to the area. And I think above all, it definitely accomplished bringing in these orange colors and some of the blue colors into this side of town to balance things out. It feels way more complete this way. Heading along town then, from the gold mine, we have our first two shops. In the upper level here, we have a tool shop and a restaurant. Whoops. Let's just No one will ever know. Shh. There we go. We have our tool shop and our restaurant. And, yeah, this, got to play around with a few new textures, working in the acacia a little bit, trying to pull in some of what we have on the fishing shack out that way into town here, started incorporating more of the bee's nest blocks, and just trying to make that orange really have a place in town now that I had included it in the details in the exterior. Next up, we have the restaurant, which primarily has its seating area outdoors here, with some nice views overlooking the town hall, down at the docks over there. Granted, it's a little obscured. Nah, it's nice. It's nice. Any view that lets me see my town hall is a good view. A little bit of food prep area here. Nice and small. And I'm gonna do that 1,000 times today, aren't I? Okay. I'm not even I feel like I'm not even I'm clearly in the block next to it. It's so sensitive. Okay. Anyway. Enough getting distracted, yeah. Yeah, so just a couple little details just to make this place feel like it is indeed a restaurant. One other thing that changed pretty significantly was the windmill design. I shouldn't really say significantly, it's just the block palette, the texturing. I changed out these blocks here and down there to incorporate the quartz. This building in particular really felt sandstone heavy because of its height, and it didn't feel like it tied in very well. None of these buildings really tied in very well with the town hall or the gold mine. And immediately I feel like that remedied it. Just having some quartz in that building there, even still keeping just the sandstone look like the other buildings, I feel like that really helped to make it feel more cohesive and tie into the other major buildings. So now our town has some power. And with that power, I'm sure you noticed, we have lights throughout the town. And what a perfect timing. You know, the sun is going down, and we don't have to worry about nighttime visitors because our little town here has been protected by the power of light. Our final stop in town is this dual shop. One side is a clothing shop, and the other side is another trinket shop, similar to what we have down at the docks. It continues on a very similar vein, with just a couple little items here and there, little treasures and trinkets and whatnot. Random assorted junk, more than anything. And for some reason, this place gives me the impression that stuff in here is probably knockoffs. I don't know why. Another little living quarter back here. Room enough for a person to move in and start keeping shop. And on this side, probably one of my favorite designs in the town is the clothing and armor store. We have a little assortment of the latest fashion trends, complete with outrageously strange artwork. You know, I feel, for some reason, these pictures feel really fitting to me in like a clothing store. Like, I feel like I could walk into any kind of trendy place or a Gap, and I would see weird paintings like this showing off the latest fashion, so for me it feels very fitting for some reason. We also have a small dressing room over on this side, because you gotta test it out before you purchase. And purchases are made in this tiny little nook right here, which to me just has like the perfect shopkeep little place to, you know, watch over the store. Yeah, I love it. I think this has definitely got to be my favorite little place that we've created in the commercial area of Twin Bell Town for sure. And as the sun rises, we move on to the residential aspect of town. It's what we've been discussing every single episode pretty much since the start of working on it. The plans have been residential out this way and filling out this desert. I even have a couple plots that were laid down in like episode 1 or 2 of where we would like to actually place some of these buildings. Oh, I have a sign on this one. See, this is a good reason why I have the sign. What did I put the sign here for? House. Okay. Alright. Well, I did forget what the sign said, but I did, I guess, remember what the purpose was. And yes, this is just to have a residential area to town. It is long overdue, And I have a feeling once we get in some more houses over here, we should expect to see the shops start to fill up with a few more people. Throughout the desert, we're going to put a couple houses. I think we're going to leave them with nice big yards. And I think we're going to avoid doing really sandstone heavy, because we could see just how much that washed things out when we did it for these commercial buildings here. And I think we're going to stick with maybe using wood tones as the primary and including the sandstone. I'm almost picturing the for the bases of it and maybe some of the roofs. I don't know. We're going to have to first start by creating up a palette. I don't really have any idea just yet. The only thing I know is I don't want to go super sandstone heavy. I did a terraforming project where I worked on creating this little custom sand dune over here, just to help sort of block off the views that way, and mostly just for fun, honestly. I'm still pretty new to terraforming. I have certainly picked up some good tips and tricks from some of the best people at terraforming. I think Good Times with Scar is probably one of my biggest inspirations for his methods, and also BOO. I think between the two of them, I kind of like a little bit of what each one of them does. So maybe not all of it, but, little bits and pieces. And, as I've learned how to start doing it and experimenting with it myself, I've come to realize just how similar it is to painting or creating art with more traditional mediums, in just sort of my method for how I do things. And this particular area was kind of a challenge because no matter what I did, the color palette is very one-tone. One-tone, but at least a slight variation in texture. So there's something to it, but it's not really the same as doing, the grass, where there's clearly, a lot more I was able to mix in here with the path blocks and the grass and the dirt and the sand showing. Here, it was a challenge. It was very, very beige, very sand heavy, but I think the little bits of detail here and there helped to make it feel like it fits, in nicely with this area. And I think Mayor Bunny's family that lives out this way has been absolutely loving it. Ever since I built up this area, they have been going nuts, jumping all over the place. They all have this thing where they just kind of get stuck in, a single place. Yeah, on a stair here. Is there going to be on another stair? Yeah, on stairs. They have a hard time with slabs. Stairs. Yeah, stairs again. So that's one interesting way you can keep your bunnies trapped without having to actually keep them trapped. They have a hard time moving on. I've also created a path over on this side, which is going to leave it up to the residential area, and the residential area down into the shopping district. So it leaves us with 2 ways to get into town if you are living out that way. So first things first, it's time to sketch out the design of one of the bigger houses. I feel like it'll be easier to start bigger, because I think I'm going to have all these ideas and plans, so we'll start bigger and then scale it back for some of the smaller buildings out that way. And I think the best way is through a third-person time lapse. So let's get it started. Well, here we have our first residential home, right at the most convenient location to town. This is definitely going to be one of the higher end homes. Don't think I'm going to make them larger than this, and certainly not this landscaped. I tried to create sort of a private entrance feeling by creating these bushes along here all the way around, just so the entrance is kind of tucked away along the path. And I also decided to go for kind of a modern style-ish. I don't know, just sort of the large windows here, spanning near the top, and the floor-to-ceiling windows, and high ceilings inside. I'm not going to do 2 stories in here. It is all going to be wide open. You'll see that I carried the landscaping over into the backyard here with a little private deck and a little private backyard, which, while you're in here, does really feel, pretty secluded. You're tucked in behind the business that you're right up against, which is not, not super ideal, but, it's been built up. Anyway, now that we have the design for the exterior figured out for the fancier houses, it's time to jump into one more time lapse where we will build up another one right on top of this hill here, and also do some landscaping to actually connect this river out to the body of water out that way. And if I'm feeling super ambitious, we'll start building the next houses out this way. So let's jump into another time lapse. I love the experience of walking from an actual, like, playing perspective and looking up at the buildings. It's definitely my favorite view, even more so than just sort of flying around and looking at the buildings, which I'll do a little bit afterwards as well. I made 2 houses that are down by the river here. My intention was to make them a little fancier and a little nicer than the houses that'll go out that way. This is sort of the prime real estate. Now, I did work on the outside, but I didn't really do anything interior-wise for anything, except for maybe a couple of beds, so don't expect any villagers moving in just yet. There's not quite enough for them to start populating our town. Look at this. Look at this little view. You can see the town hall from here. There's a private little garden space. Oh, and we got one of Mayor Bunny's cousins hanging outside. Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I didn't think I was close enough. I'm super far away. How did I hit you? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Anyway, let's move on to the next house. Up the way here. These ones all have these kind of little private entrances, kind of blocked off by some bushes and shrubbery. I think that helps a lot add to the fact that, like, these are definitely the nicer houses. Introducing a couple new colors and textures into the build. Again, the interior still doesn't have much of anything. This one I think actually might have the most interior out of any of them. With this space actually having like a fireplace installed, the beds up here. The concept of this place was worked out a little bit more than some of the others. The view is probably the best part of this. This huge window overlooking the water, which has now been, you know, it could be widened more for sure. Like, it's not really believable right now that a big ship could come through there, but at least it's all filled in now. Flying up from above, you can get a better perspective of what has been going on in this area here with these 2 houses. A couple more custom trees, some more palm trees and little palms. And actually over this way, we're going to see a new type of tree has entered in the game, something that looks a little more scraggly. I think that'll be a nice addition to something I have planned for out that way. Yeah, I've got a couple more palm trees over this way, making it feel a little bit more tropical and a little less desert. And yeah, I think it's turning out pretty good. This house is the last of the fancier houses, although it's not waterfront. It is really close to town, and I'd say that it's probably a pretty good location as far as where potential house plots have been laid out. And I just sort of went a little bit wild with designing this one. It's, you know what, I think I took a lot of inspiration from the shape of the town hall and tried to pull in some of those big columns, and I don't know, I played around with a lot of this. I started and stopped, and I even added a greenhouse in this one. One thing I did want to keep in mind was the view from town when I was building that particular house, because I figured it was one of the ones that you'd actually see, but when you're down here at like the actual town hall level, you can barely see it, so it hardly mattered in the long run. Until you come up top here, then you can see a little bit of the tops of the houses, but not much. I'm keeping most of the buildings pretty flat, just because that's sort of been the theme of all the buildings in this town, compared to on that side, where they've had more pitched roofs. That just doesn't seem to be the building style of this side, or so I have decided. The inside of this one has had very little work accomplished as well. Got some nice lapis ceilings, and, you know, this place looks so much larger from the outside, and then when you go in, it's so tiny. Oh, and I'm missing some glass there, of course. Let me fix that. That's gonna drive me nuts. All better. Yeah, it feels... Come on. It feels much smaller in here, once you're in here, compared to how I feel like it looks on the outside. But that's okay. It's in everything we need to. I even got a little green room back here. Growing some flowers and plants, and there's room for a bed and a sitting area. What more do these people need? This person that lives here likes high-end things. They want to go shopping in town. They're not spending time at home. And finally, the last house that has been built closer to the rest of where these houses are going to be I think this is much more the look of what we're going to do out in as far as the desert houses go. Although it's a very rectangular shape, it's been softened with these little arches, making it almost feel like a dome house out in the sand a little bit. And I think actually out of all the funky houses, this has kind of been my favorite. You can see I definitely got more into the landscaping and the details on the outside, and it was just something that sort of really inspired me as I was working on it, and a funky little custom tree to go along with it. I think that these are definitely going to populate more areas out this way as well. So I got more houses done than I thought I was going to, actually. Each one of these little custom houses, since there's no plan going into it beforehand, other than just sort of a general idea of maybe what materials I want to use, even though most of the time I end up changing my mind afterwards, they take a lot of time to actually make up. Now that we have an idea for kind of how we want the rest of the houses throughout here to resemble, based mostly off of this style, I think the going will get much faster for these other houses out. This way, we'll have a couple more funky, weird custom ones throughout, potentially probably these two middle houses, because I actually have a special plan for this area here. You can see that I plotted out all the different walkways, and there's a big cut through in the middle here. And what I plan to do is actually turn this into like a fabulous desert oasis with a nice pond over in this area and lush trees and plants and lots of custom landscaping, just like was done over this way, doing this little sand dune. I want to carry that over into here and just make it a private oasis. I think that will really look nice. It'll bring in a whole lot more greenery into this area. And, yeah, just make it something other than just a couple of houses. So, yeah, that's gonna do it for me for this video. That leaves us spending a little bit of time off camera in between episodes, working on finishing up the rest of these little houses. Probably do that in a third-person time-lapse. And then next video, we're gonna work on this oasis. I think that'll be a fun thing to do together and sort of play around with making much more custom landscaping together. So I'm looking forward to it, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye!